Sanstapako Lokanam Hitakarino Tribhuvane Manyo Saranya Karo Radha Krishna Padaravinda Bhajana Nande Namataliko Vande Rupa Sanatana Raghuyugo Shri Jiva Gopalako Vande Rupa Sanatana Raghuyugo Shri Jiva Gopalako. In the translation, I offer my respectful obeisances unto the six Goswamis, namely Sri Sanatan Goswami, Sri Rupa Goswami, Sri Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, Sri Raghunath Das Goswami, Sri Jiva Goswami, and Sri Gopal Bhatta Goswami, who are very expert in scrutinizingly studying all the revealed scriptures with the aim of establishing eternal religious principles for the benefit of all human beings. Thus they are honored all over the three worlds, and they are worth taking shelter of because they are absorbed in the mood of the gopis and are engaged in the transcendental loving service of Radha and Krishna. You can repeat after me. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 So we are continuing with chapter 12, and I want to connect it also simultaneously to chapter 13, because it's an expansion of the last 5 items, which are the most potent items in devotional service. That means number 60, 61, 62, 63, and 64, which are 5 most potent items. So the first one we are discussing, which we introduced yesterday, it's on page 104. We'll read that again for today. It says, serving the deity with great devotion. Yes, so this is item number 60, which is the last 5, which is included. So I'm reading from yesterday. It is said in the Adi Purana, a person who is constantly engaged in chanting the holy name and who feels transcendental pleasure being engaged in devotional service is certainly awarded the facilities of devotional service and is never given just mukti or liberation. Unquote. Mukti means liberation from material contamination. When liberated, one does not have to take birth again in the material world. The impersonalist desire to merge into the spiritual existence to end the individual existence, but according to Srimad Bhagavata, mukti is only the beginning of one's becoming situated in his normal condition. The normal condition of every living entity is to be engaged in the devotional service of the Lord. From the statement of Adi Purana, it appears that a devotee is satisfied simply with being engaged in devotional service. He does not aspire for any liberation from material conditioned life. In other words, anyone who is engaged in devotional service is not in the material condition of life, although he may appear so. Mama Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanabhyo Vaishnavabhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Just to recollect from yesterday, what I just read about serving the deity with great devotion. In this paraphrasing, Srila Prabhupada, he does not really mention deity worship. Rather, he emphasizes on to be constantly engaged in chanting the holy name of the Lord. However, the actual verse which comes in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, which is quoted in Chaitanya Charitamrita in Madhya Lila, chapter 22, text 130, it says, Shraddha Vishe Sata Priti Shri Murti Angri Sevane. And that means with love, priti, and with full faith, one should worship the lotus feet of the deity. So, Srila Rupa Goswami does not really say differently from Srila Prabhupada. But Shraddha means actually faith, and Priti, that means love. That means the worship of the deity must be done with faith and love. However, Srila Prabhupada tells us here about the chanting of the holy names, and which I mentioned yesterday, that when one chants one's japa, even before engaging in deity worship, then one's heart will be infused with deep faith and love for the deity. And in the Chaitanya Charitamrita also, in the Adi Lila, there's a verse, Kali Kala Nama Rupa, the Krishna avatar. In other words, the presiding deity or incarnation for this age is Namarup. Namarup means the form of the holy name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So this indicates directly by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that the presiding deity to be worshipped is to hear and chant the holy names of the Lord, which will help us to purify our consciousness, to engage in deity worship with that kind of special potency of deep faith and love. So now to connect this first potent item of devotional service, serving the deity with great devotion, Srila Rupa Goswami also composes his own prayers, which is given in chapter number 13. So I'm going to read that correspondingly in relation to deity worship, or serving the deity with great devotion. So that will take us to page number 109, which is chapter 13, which essentially gives us Rupa Goswami's 5 verses in glorification of these 5 most potent items. And the first one we're discussing is about the deity of the Lord. So in the second paragraph, I'm reading. This is in chapter 13. Regarding worship of the form of the Lord or deity, Rupa Goswami has written the following verse, quote, "My dear friend, if you still have any desire to enjoy the company of your friends within this material world, then don't look upon the form of Krishna, who is standing on the bank of Keshigat, a bathing place in Vrindavan. He is known as Govinda, and his eyes are very enchanting. He is playing upon his flute, and on his head there is a peacock feather, and his whole body is illuminated by the moonlight in the sky." Unquote. The purport of this verse is that if someone becomes attached to Sri Murti or deity of Krishna by worshipping at home, then he will forget his relationships of so-called friendship, love, and society. Thus, it is the duty of every householder to install deities of the Lord at home and to begin the process of worshipping along with all of his family members. This will save everyone from such unwanted activities as going to clubs, cinemas, and dancing parties, and smoking, drinking, etc. All such nonsense will be forgotten if one stresses the worship of the deities at home. It's quite amazing what Prabhupada says there, for especially for householders, the grihastas and vanaprasthas. Yes. Now, this is a beautiful verse that is also there in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, which Rupa Goswami himself has composed. Now, generally people in conditioned life, they engage in the pleasure of, you could say, a society, friendship, and love. Just excuse me a moment. This actually so-called love, um, uh, derived, or pleasure that's derived, is actually not love, it's actually lust. But people are satisfied with such a false understanding of love. Now, there's a great poet Srila Prabhupada used to quote named Vidyapati. And he is a learned poet from Mithila. So he says that the pleasure derived from friendship, society, and family in the material world is like a drop of water. But our hearts actually desire pleasure like an ocean. See? So if the heart is compared to a desert of material existence, then it actually requires the water of an ocean of pleasure to actually, satisfy its dryness. Now, if there's just one drop of water in a desert, which is the ocean, which is the material existence itself, one may say, well, that is water, but such a minute quantity, one drop of water in a desert, it really has hardly or even no value. See? So therefore, if one wants to really derive real pleasure within the heart, one must seek the lotus feet of Govinda. And therefore, in this particular rendering of Rupa Goswami's verse in this 13th chapter, he indicates that if one wants to be satisfied in the pleasure of society, friendship, and so-called love, which is lust, he doesn't need to come to the shelter of Govinda. For if he takes the shelter of Govinda, he will forget that only drop of pleasure compared to the ocean in the heart, only the drop, you will forget that so-called pleasure. So therefore, one who is not satisfied with the so-called pleasure in the name of love, which is actually lust, must seek the lotus feet of Govinda, who stands on the Yamuna shore at Keshigat, or Keshi Tirtha in Vrindavan. And there, from there, Govinda, Krishna, attracts all the gopis to his transcendental service. So this is in relation to serving the deity with great devotion, in relation to also getting the potency and love and faith from prior to that by chanting the holy names. So I can move on if there are no questions. Krishna Prema Prabhu.
So far, no one is asking questions, Maharaj.
Okay, good. So let's get to page 104 again in chapter 12, and we'll connect it to chapter 13 again. For the next item, which is number 61, which is the second most potent items and the most potent items of devotional service. And this is a recitation of Srimad Bhagavatam among the devotees. So I'm reading. A Srimad Bhagavatam is the desire tree of Vedic wisdom. Veda itself means the aggregate of knowledge. And whatever knowledge is required for human society is perfectly presented in Srimad Bhagavatam. There are different branches of knowledge in the Vedic writings, including sociology, politics, medicine, and military art. All these and other branches of knowledge are perfectly described in the Vedas. So, as far as spiritual knowledge is concerned, that is also perfectly described there. And Srimad Bhagavatam is considered to be the ripened fruit of this desire-fulfilling tree of the Vedas. A tree is honored by the production of its fruit. For example, a mango tree is considered very valuable because it produces the king of all fruits, the mango. When the mango fruit becomes ripened, it is the greatest gift of that tree. And Srimad Bhagavatam is similarly held to be the ripened fruit of the Vedic tree. And as ripened fruit becomes more relishable, when first touched by the beak of a parrot or sukha, Srimad Bhagavatam has become more relishable by being delivered through the transcendental mouth of Sukadeva Goswami. So we find that this particular item, recitation of Srimad Bhagavatam amongst devotees, will also connect to the next item, which is called associating with advanced devotees. So I'm going to go to that now, which is item number 62. And I'm going to read that and then explain. So this is item 62. And it immediately talks about Srimad Bhagavatam again. They connect it. The importance of discussing Srimad Bhagavatam in the society of pure devotees was explained by Sonaka Muni during the meeting at Naimisharanya. In the presence of Sutta Goswami confirmed that if someone is fortunate enough to associate with the pure devotee of the Lord, even for a moment, that particular moment is so valuable that even those pious activities which can promote one to the heavenly planets or give liberation from material miseries cannot compare to it. In other words, those who are attached to Srimad Bhagavatam do not care for any kind of benefit derived from elevation to the higher planetary system, planetary kingdoms, or for liberation which is conceived of by the impersonalists. As such, the association of pure devotees is so transcendently valuable that no kind of material happiness can compare to it. So this is connected. A recitation of Srimad Bhagavatam amongst devotees, which means association of devotees. See? Now, one can hear Srimad Bhagavatam, from realized souls, and one can hear Srimad Bhagavatam also in a general way by actually attending a daily Srimad Bhagavatam class. And in relation to association with devotees, in relation also to Srimad Bhagavatam, nothing compares to even a moment's association with a pure devotee. And it is like a crystal stone. It is also mentioned that when you associate with advanced or pure devotees, their consciousness you immediately absorb. It like a crystal will reflect the color that it associates with. So if you're a crystal stone and you associate with pure devotees, you will take on their consciousness, like the crystal will take the color of something is associated. So Srila Prabhupada also gives that example in association with advanced devotees. Now, there is a beautiful verse in the Chaitanya Charitamrita about these things. It says, Srimad Bhagavatam Artanam Ashvado Rakshishkai Saha Kahi Saha Sajatis Sajatiya Saye Snigde Sadhu Sangha Svato Vare. And this is in Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila 22, 131. And it indicates that one should taste, not just read or study. So in relation to reading Srimad Bhagavatam, that one does on one's own without the association of devotees. In relation to studying Srimad Bhagavatam, one does that in the association of devotees. But in relation to tasting Srimad Bhagavatam, that means in the association of pure devotees. It means one must associate with devotees who are more advanced than oneself, and also snigdasya. And also they're endowed with sort of like similar affection for the Lord, and they also have affection for you. In other words, there's a very close-knit relationship. Okay? So there are three things here. Reading Srimad Bhagavatam on your own, studying Srimad Bhagavatam in the association of devotees, but that's not necessarily that one has close relationship or affection for those devotees. Like if you study for Bhakti Shastri, you may be with other devotees in the classroom, but you're studying in the association of devotees, but not necessarily that every devotee in the classroom that you have a close relationship with. Although in general, everyone is your friend, you know, friendly to everyone, but closeness may not be there. Okay? So the words in this particular verse, sajati yas saye snigde sadhu sangha svato vare are very important. This means that according to the Vedic injunctions, Srila Prabhupada used to quote a verse, Yasya deve para bhaktir, yatha deve tata guru. That the Srimad Bhagavatam can be recited only by somebody who has a very deep faith situated at the lotus feet of Krishna. And that indicates one's Shiksha Gurus and one's Diksha Guru. So one should try to understand Srimad Bhagavatam from one's Shiksha Gurus and Diksha Gurus. Although one should also generally attend Srimad Bhagavatam every day. See? So this is important because Bhaktya Bhagavatam Grayam na Buddhya na Chatikaya, which indicates that one should understand Srimad Bhagavatam through the process of devotional service, which means by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam from pure or advanced devotees. And this is extremely important. So One time, His Holiness Brhat Swami, he shared an important exchange that took place between Srila Prabhupada and a disciple in the presence of other disciples. And actually, I mentioned this to Mahavaraha Prabhu, who's very, very intimately connected in his service with His Holiness Jayapataka Swami. His name is Mahavaraha, right?
Yes, Maharaj.
Yes, I know him well, but I thought it's Varaha, somebody's Mahavaraha. So I related this exchange that Brhat Swami shared with him. And we were attending one course together, and later on he asked me more about the exchange. Srila Prabhupada asked one disciple in the presence of other disciples, what is the most important verse in the scripture? See? And the disciple recited, Harinama, Harinama, Harinameva Kevalam, Kalo Nasteva, Nasteva, Nasteva Gatiranya. And he said the translation that in this age of Kali, there is no other way or means, no other means for self-realization save and except the chanting of the holy name, the chanting of the holy name, the chanting of the holy name of Hari. And Srila Prabhupada immediately replied, no, that is not the most important verse. And then Srila Prabhupada himself quoted the most important verse. Yasya deve para bhaktir, yata deve tata guru, tasyaita katita hi artha, prakashanta mahatmana. So this is from the Satasatara Upanishad. And it indicates that unto those great souls who have implicit faith in both the Lord, Krishna, and equally implicit faith in the spiritual master or masters, then all of the imports of the Vedic knowledge are automatically revealed. All automatically revealed. In other words, you do not have to separately go along with studying all of the revealed scriptures. In other words, all of the scriptures, but the purport, the actual meanings of the revealed scriptures will come in your heart. Come in your heart. Now, I'll give you some example of this. And if one has that kind of implicit faith in the spiritual masters as well as in Krishna, Yata Deva Tata Guru, then you will find that something happens to you. And almost every one of us has this kind of experience. Now, we may not have read all of Prabhupada's books and even not have even assimilated everything, which takes quite a bit of time. See, quite a bit of time. It may take a good few lifetimes to assimilate everything just in Srila Prabhupada's books and his purports with his translations. However, sometimes when we preach, and like you may be giving a Sunday feast class, or you may be preaching to somebody on the street and distributing books to them, and then they'll end up asking you some questions. Or maybe in a lecture, after the lecture, people ask questions. So someone may ask a question, but internally in your heart, you do not know the answer to that question. And it's like very momentary that you know in your heart that you do not know the answer. So if you really do not want to say that you do not know the answer, then you may say something like, look, in a humble mood, that I do not know the answer now. I will have to research in Prabhupada's books and his purports and his translation, and I'll get back to you. So that's nice. That's a wonderful, actually, response to something that you do not know the answer. However, in other times, when somebody asks you a question, although momentarily in your heart you do not know the answer, but then your lips starts moving and you say something. And when you say the answer without you knowing, that you do not know the answer, and you say it, and it's perfect. It's perfect. The person who asked the question is satisfied, and even the audience who was actually listening probably is also satisfied. And it's perfect. Perfect. And you become surprised at your own self. It's like you become surprised at your own self. See? So later on, when you actually reading more Srila Prabhupada's books, then you come across it. That's the actual answer I gave. That's the actual answer I gave. And it's right here in Prabhupada's book. But I never read this before. See? So therefore, that is Yasya Deva Para Bhakti, Yata Deva Tata Guru. That when one has implicit faith in both Krishna and similar implicit faith in one's spiritual masters, then all the imports of the Vedic knowledge are automatically revealed. It's a kind of revelation that enters your heart. So that is very important to know. Very, very important to know. Now, I'm moving on a little bit more to complete this section, and then I'll take questions. In relation to hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, in the association of devotees and actually associating with advanced devotees. So, in a beautiful verse in the Chaitanya Charitamrita in Madhya Lila, chapter 22, text 54, and you may know the verse, some of you. Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Shastrakai, Lava Matra, Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Siddhihai. That the verdict of all revealed scriptures, which is connected to the previous verse, which I said, Yasa Deva Para Bhakti Yata Deva Kara Tatavu, that the verdict, the conclusion, the siddhanta of all revealed scriptures is that even for a moment, if you associate with the pure devotee, one will attain all success in devotional service. And according to, Srila Prabhupada says, according to astrological calculations, this lava matra is just 1/11th of 1 second, not even a second. 1/11th of 1 second. So just even seeing such a person and hearing from such a person, what to speak of 1/11th of 1 second, you may be hearing even more. You'll attain all success by the blessings and mercy of such pure devotees. Yes. And in relation to Srimad Bhagavatam itself, there's a famous verse, and probably several of us may know this, from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, chapter 2, text 18. Nasta prayashu abradeshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama sloke bhakti bhavati naistiki. In other words, if you regularly, by regular attendance, this word regular is there, practically daily, by regular attendance in classes on the Srimad Bhagavatam, and simultaneously rendering service to the pure devotees, that means, a nityam bhagavata sevaya, that, offering services to the pure devotees. All that is like troublesome in the heart, in other words, your stress, your anxiety and depression will be almost completely destroyed. And by that sense, how it will be destroyed, not by like first destroying that, because loving devotional service unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is praised with Uttama Sloka, Bhagavati, who is praised with transcendental songs, Bhakti Bhavati Naistiki. In other words, it is established in the heart. So when this loving devotional service is established in the heart by regular attendance and hearing every day Srimad Bhagavatam and serving pure devotees, then automatically, by its own side effect, by the way, incidentally, all that is troublesome in your heart will completely leave you, because that which is troublesome in your heart cannot stay when the loving devotional service takes its place. So Srila Prabhupada says that this is the actual remedy of eliminating all inauspicious things in the heart, which are considered sometimes to be obstacles on the path of becoming pure in Krishna consciousness. So the remedy is basically Bhagavatas. So there are two types of Bhagavatas. One is the Srimad Bhagavatam itself, which is called the book Bhagavat, and the other is called the devotee Bhagavat or the person Bhagavat. Now both the Bhagavatas, the book Bhagavat, Srimad Bhagavatam, the scripture, and the person Bhagavat are equal competent remedies. And both of them, or either one of them, is good enough to take away the obstacles from our hearts and purify us to allow Krishna Bhakti to enter. So now we know that the person Bhagavat, the devotee Bhagavat, he is a living Srimad Bhagavatam. In other words, he is practically living the Srimad Bhagavatam. So although a devotee Bhagavat is as good as the book Bhagavat, but because the devotee Bhagavat, he lives the book Bhagavat, so therefore, in order to really understand Srimad Bhagavatam, one has to hear from the book Bhagavat simultaneously, although one can read in the Srimad Bhagavatam on one's own. See? But however, at the same time, the book Bhagavat gives proof that if somebody follows the Srimad Bhagavatam, then you get a role model in the person of in the person Bhagavat itself. Now, one disciple asked Srila Prabhupada, which is more important or who is more important? Although Srila Prabhupada says both are identical and competent to actually help the devotee. The Srimad Bhagavatam is a scripture as well as the person who's living the Srimad Bhagavatam, the person Bhagavatam. But still the disciple, he asked Srila Prabhupada, who is more powerful or which is more important? Like that. So Srila Prabhupada replied that the person Bhagavat, in a sense, although both identical, is more important than the book Bhagavat because he can twist your ear, which indicates that when you read the Srimad Bhagavatam as a book may not, correct you or even chastise you or purify you, but it'll purify nevertheless. But the person Bhagavat, which is the form of the Shiksha and Diksha gurus, they can twist your ear, so to speak. All right. I can take some questions if you like at this point. We discussed 3 items, worshipping or serving the deity with great devotion and reciting Srimad Bhagavatam in the association of devotees and associating with advanced devotees. Any questions at this point? Well, before I take the question, I would just like to read that part in chapter 13 in relation to hearing Srimad Bhagavatam and also in associating with devotees. So this is in page 109, the last paragraph. Rupa Goswami further writes, "My dear foolish friend, I think that you have already heard some of the auspicious Srimad Bhagavatam, which decries seeking the results of fruitive activities, economic development and liberation. I think that now it is certain that gradually the verses of the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam describing the pastimes of the Lord will enter your ears and go into your heart." See? So let's go ahead And we'll skip 2 paragraphs and we'll come to the next one on page 110, the 3rd paragraph. Srila Rupa Goswami has similarly described the transcendental nature of relishing topics which concern Krishna. A devotee once said, quote, "It is very astonishing that since I have seen this personality of Godhead, who is washed by the tears of my eyes, there is shivering of my body. And he has made me a failure in executing my material duties. Since seeing him, I cannot remain silently at home. I wish to go out to him always." Quote, unquote. The purport of this statement is that as soon as one is fortunate enough to contact a pure devotee, one must be anxious immediately to hear about Krishna, to learn about Krishna, or in other words, to become fully Krishna conscious. So this is in relation to associating with advanced devotees. And prior to this, about hearing Srimad Bhagavata, it says that, especially the 10th canto, it will enter your ears and it will go straight into your heart, not your mind. Not your mind. See? So therefore, Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Saja Kabunai, Shravanadi Sudachitai, Kara Yehudai. That this prema for Krishna, especially relishing 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavata. Of course, one should go and become purified by hearing from 1st canto to 9th canto first, and then enter into the 10th canto. But it will enter the ears and into the heart, not the mind. So it's most important that when we relish Srimad Bhagavatam, it's not like a mental thing. But if the mind remembers Srimad Bhagavatam, then the heart is dictating to the mind to be Krishna conscious. So that's very important. All right, do we have any questions? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Mohana Murli Prabhu has a question. Prabhu, you can open your video.
Oh, Mohana Murlidhar.
Yes.
I haven't heard from him for a while. Okay, Mohana Murlidhar Prabhu Ki Jai. Mohana Murlidhar, can you come more onto the screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. I know you're both together there, but come a little bit more in.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, good. Now tell me your question.
Maharaj, can we ask a question from previous class or should we ask later?
Amrita Saki, are you asking the question or Mohana Murlidhar asking the question?
She's asking.
He told me to ask.
No, you tell him to ask. Tell him, instruct him. Mohana Murlidhar, come into the screen. Come this way.
Yes, Maharaj.
More. So now you ask me your question, even if from previous classes, but don't move your face on that side. Yeah.
Yes, Maharaj. Sure.
Tell me your question.
Maharaj, yesterday Maharaj was mentioning in Maharaj's class that devotees don't go through suffering. It is like more of a test, mercy, which Krishna gives.
Yes, Tatayanu Kampam Sushamikshama. Nice verse, beautiful verse. Tell me.
Okay, so, but it appears to be both a devotee and a non-devotee is suffering like in the same way, in the same manner. So how do we actually try to understand this? Because I find it very difficult to really understand. Sometimes, when devotees go through sickness, or even personally when I go through sickness, some diseases, then I do also face this kind of doubts in my mind that for me it's easier to just think that, oh, I'm going through this pain, it's because of my own karma from my past or even in my current life. So I find it's easier for me to digest in this way rather than saying that, oh, Krishna is giving me a test and I'm going through this. So how do I
All
actually
right.
understand
So,
this thing?
okay. You can put me onto the screen.
Yes,
Hare
Maharaj, we
Krishna.
can see you.
Okay. It's very important to understand Srila Prabhupada gave several answers to it.
Yes, Manoj, we can see you, Manoj.
Yes, Maharaj.
Okay. So the first answer that I'd like to share with you from Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada quoted the verse, directly from Krishna himself,
Internet.
in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 30, text number 13 to chapter 2. Matras pasas to Kunteya, Sitoshna Sukha Dukkada, Agama Painunitas Tamtitiksasva Bharata. Now we should know that who is speaking this verse? Can you tell me? Moana Murlida, I'm interacting with you. So you can come on to don't unmute yourself and speak to me. So Moana Murlida, 2:14. Matras pasas to Kunteya Sitoshna Sukha Dukkada Agama Painunitas Tamtitiksasva Bharata. This is Krishna's direct words in Bhagavad Gita. So who is speaking the verse? I just asked you and I told you the answer already. Who is speaking the verse? Krishna himself
Krishna.
is speaking.
Krishna
Yes.
himself. Yes.
Now that means if Krishna is telling you this verse, that is Krishna's mercy. Okay?
Yes, sir.
So that indicates that you have to apply this verse that Krishna is instructing you to follow. Okay? That means matras pasas to kunteya, that this sensory perception of the body being sick, or the body being happy, or the body being distressed, or the mind being happy and distressed, is like Sita and Ushana.
Hmm.
It is the coming of the winter and the summer seasons. It doesn't last very long.
Yes.
So, in other words, when winter comes, you protect yourself by wearing warm clothes, but sometimes it's just too cold and you cannot do anything. But you know that it won't last very long because, autumn, summer, spring, summer, autumn, winter, then spring will come after winter, then summer will come. You know that. And when summer comes and it's too hot, then you complain again. Okay, it's too hot. But you'll complain, but as well as you know, it won't last very long. So therefore, tam titiksasva bharata. Agama painyo nityas. Nityas means it's temporary. Tam titiksasva bharata. So, but knowing that it is temporary, one will tolerate even some bodily inconveniences. This is coming from Krishna as Krishna's mercy in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2. Okay? So Krishna's mercy is connected to his instructions. But we have to follow these instructions by seeing it as Krishna's arrangement, one. And number two is when we do follow, we have to put our own effort and then we see it. Okay, I can deal with this. I can tolerate. I can deal. So that's very, very, very important to understand. Second way of looking at it is that, say for example, your bodily ailment is that, for example, not necessarily you, if somebody has contacted cancer and it's like, pretty intense and very painful and they're trying to deal with it, see? So the cancer will either last if you go through some therapy, some treatment, and it will go away. It's just a matter of time. But you may get an anxiety, oh, my hair is falling off, like that. But the hair will grow again after the cancer is stunted and the growth and also the spread is also stopped. However, the same cancer can also take away your life.
Yes.
So that's the end of the cancer also. See? But a devotee can handle that. A devotee can face that. Look, if the cancer takes away my life, then Krishna is going to give me a better suitable facility of a body, or go back to Godhead to continue my devotional service without any cancer. But at the same time, if your cancer is sort of like, sorted out and your body is still there, then you continue with your devotional service. However, if you compare yourself of oneself as a devotee of having some disease as cancer to a non-devotee who has cancer, the consciousness is quite different. Non-devotee, this, his family members, his friends, and his relatives will come to him. Oh, what's going to happen? They give him more distress, more distress. See? Whereas a devotee, the other devotees will come. They chant the holy names, They pray to Lord Nishingadev, they'll be with you, and it's a very soothing time. Be absorbing more of Krishna consciousness at that time from the association of devotees. When you compare that, that is like the luxury of spiritual life. That is like the ecstasy or the beauty and opulence of spiritual life. Whereas the non-devotee, everyone will come to you, your friends and relatives, and they look at you, they also gleam down and so forth, downtrodden, not happy. Of course, some other members may be happy that, let my father die of this cancer, I'll get the insurance policy or something like that. That's a little different. But you can see there's a complete different consciousness in relation to non-devotees going through the similar disease as a devotee. Completely different. So I've given you two perspectives. One is directly from Krishna himself about tolerating, and the other is the consciousness difference between devotees and non-devotees. Of course, our hearts go out to the non-devotees. And if somebody is sick and is a non-devotee, maybe it's the right time and fertile ground to go and preach to them and give them Krishna consciousness also. Mohana Murlidhar Prabhu, is that okay?
Yes, Maharaj. For now, yes.
You have another question based on my explanation or not? For now.
Yes, Maharaj. It's like, in Bhagavad Gita, one of the main topics among the 5 topics of Bhagavad Gita,
Yes.
karma is one of the main topics that we discuss. So even in many chapters, Krishna emphasizes on karma. So that is the reason why I'm asking about this question. It's like,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes. Before we were not in Krishna consciousness, we didn't know. We may have had some ideas, some of us, coming from like sort of a vestige of Vedic culture from India about karma. We may have had some idea of it, but actually we didn't really know very well until we came and read and studied and associated devotees in relationship to the philosophy given to us in Bhagavad Gita as it is. So the Bhagavad Gita also deals with how to understand karma. And therefore, when we understand it, then we can relate to it when it happens to us. But because the fact is we are reading the Bhagavad Gita and absorbing it and practicing Krishna consciousness, then Krishna takes over. Not the normal course of action and reaction of karma in the material world. Krishna immediately takes a deep interest in the devotee's life by administering, like we mentioned previously in so many occasions in the classes, that Krishna takes direct interest in administering some type of token of an inconvenience for the devotee, to bring the devotee closer to Krishna. Krishna will not administer some token reaction or vestige of one's karma to one that will take you away from Krishna. Krishna knows that. So Krishna will give you the actual dosage that you deserve and need to come closer to Krishna, to come closer to the devotees, and to get more serious in one's practices in Krishna consciousness. That's how Krishna operates in that way. He's always careful and sensitive with the devotees that they may not leave him. However, in another place, I have it in my notes somewhere. That was another special lecture I gave one time in Mayapur. However, there are two types of fall downs. One is that one fall down because one is negligent in one's spiritual practices, by one's own material desires, one falls down. And the other way that one falls down is that Krishna arranges for you to fall down. And when Krishna does that, you fall down and you suffer so much more. That means you fall down so hard that you get injured even more. And when you get up and you say, Krishna, why did you do this to me? But you know Krishna did that to you so that you won't fall down again. You won't go back to that. Oh no, I'm not going to do that again. It's too much. But that's another type also, in a sense, that Krishna may arrange. That is called Krishna Kripa, or special mercy, which is going to discuss in the forthcoming chapters to some extent. Krishna Kripa. Very rare to receive that type of mercy from Krishna. All right, is there other questions?
No, Maharaj.
Krishna Prema, anybody has questions there?
Yes, Maharaj. Shanti Mataji, she has a question.
Okay, please come onto the screen if you can.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, can you hear me?
We can hear you, but I cannot see you on the screen though.
My video is on, I
Okay.
can see. Yeah.
I can see you. Go ahead.
Okay. So it's in regards to a lecture a couple of days ago regarding the 10 offenses and blaspheming a devotee. I have a situation and I'd like your opinion on it. I'd like to repair a relationship.
That's okay, but before you continue,
Yeah.
Don't give me any names. Just
Okay,
say
yeah,
what.
no.
Just say what if, and continue.
Okay. So,
Use
pardon?
Starts with the words "what if," and then you say your question.
Okay. So I would like to repair a relationship between
No,
family.
use the words "what if."
What if I could try to repair a relationship between a devotee family and some devotees? I'd like to facilitate like a meeting or something like that. What do you think about that?
In other words, were you approached to do that or not?
No, it would be under my own accord to go to both sides and try to make things better, because
Why would
the
you,
ones,
from your perspective, what is your motivation or to do that?
because there's a continuous blasphemy of devotees, because the one side is very hurt, so they keep saying not very nice things about the other side. So I just want it to stop.
Who do they keep saying those things to?
They confide in me because they're very hurt.
It means they speak to you about it.
Correct.
So there you have it. You already have some connection with those persons,
Yes.
and you can like suggest to them, if they would like, for you to mediate and bring them together and discuss this further to root out this kind of offensive mentality. However, you should be very careful, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Because the other party may not be agreeable to it. So you should find somebody else who can approach the other party who they are close to. See, and then if there's a favorable atmosphere for both to come together, and it's not like a musti gosti, it's not like a fighting meeting, you know.
Right.
Then you have to have rules or norms which both sides understand, you know, norms to follow within the meeting. So there's some like kind of, let's say, control of anger or control of the mind, and not like flying off the handle, so to speak, in your meeting. So it's very, very important. But I must also tell you there's a risk involved in this thing for you. See? And the risk is that they may forget their sort of difficulties with each other, and you may become the difficulty. Be careful for that.
Oops.
Yeah. So if you are not in a position of kind of maturity or seniority in the devotee community, although you may have kind of some experience and skills, to do this, you should also check yourself whether it's appropriate for you to do. Otherwise, you can ask both parties who they know as a common person who's like a mature and senior devotee in the sense of his serious practices in Krishna consciousness. It's not really senior, in the sense of having a position. One has to be an advanced person also to deal with this. So be a little cautious for that.
Okay.
Is that all right for now?
That's perfect. Thank you.
Krishna Prema Pradayaka, are there any other questions for now?
I have a question, Maharaj.
Please go ahead, come onto the screen.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj. So this is regarding the deity worship, Maharaj. So I'm aware that Maharaj told that we have to serve Krishna as how he wanted to be served. So while serving the deity, how I know if is it pleasing for Krishna? Like, is that how Krishna wants me to serve him in the form of the deity? That's my question.
Yes. Are you talking about like your local deity at home or the local temple deities, ISKCON temple?
Both in one sense, Maharaj.
In one sense, both.
Yeah.
Okay, put me onto the screen. Hare Krishna. Now, with your local deities at home, you don't have to get permission from anybody like the head pujari, or devotee who's your service authority to worship and serve your deity. Because you may have a special relationship with the deity. See? So that's a little different. That's a little different. And, in that sense of worshiping or serving your own deity with love at home, Tesham Satata Yuktanam Bhajata Priti Purvakam Tadami Buddhi Yogam Tam Yena Mam Upayantite. In other words, Dada Ami. So Krishna says, I will give my devotee the intelligence of how to serve me and come to me. So that also may indicate, this is in the 10th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita as it is, this verse. That may also indicate that the deity may sort of arrange through devotees of how you can serve your own deity more. They may tell you if they visit home, are you doing this? Maybe change it like this or something. But those devotees who tell you that when they visit home is those devotees that you have faith and relationship in. They may be your friends, even close friends. Yeah. So you'll get Krishna's sort of desire through them. You may also get Krishna's desire through your own intuition. Intuition means that Krishna may tell you in your own heart, and then you may even speak it out aloud without anyone being there, but in front of your deity. You may say, oh man, I shouldn't have done that, that I should have did it this way. So that's intuition. That's Krishna speaking to you through your own consciousness of how to improve your service. However, when it comes to the local deities in the temple when you're serving, you have to follow the instructions of their service authorities, the head pujari and others, maybe the head cook. You follow that. Yeah. And in following that, in being submissive and humble and continuing your service under their direction, you will also receive what is called a sort of relationship with them. In deity worship, sometimes it could be challenging for the head pujari, and sometimes it could be challenging, for the head cook, in the deity kitchen. Challenging in the sense that, sometimes somebody was supposed to come and cook and they didn't really turn up, and then he has an anxiety to find a backup cook or a backup pujari in the altar, yeah, for the head pujari. So therefore they get into anxiety. However, if you diligently do your service according to how it's there in the timetable of services for the week, and you don't falter, and you faithfully execute it, then you become more dear to the head pujari and as well as to the head cook, because they can depend on you. They know you're responsible. They know you don't shirk your service. You actually do it. And sometimes when they're in anxiety, they'll call upon you. Look, can you come and back up for us? It's like an emergency. And you say, sure, immediately. So in that sense, you control them. You control them with your submissiveness and with your surrender. And therefore you can recommend things also. You can suggest things of how we can improve our service to the deity based on that relationship. Is that all right?
Wonderful, Maharaj. Thank you so much.
All right. Other questions? These are important questions.
No, Maharaj. So far, no one is asking. That's all for now.
Okay. So let's get to the next item, which is part of the 5 most potent items. And this is item number 63, which is on page 106. And I'm about to read that. Chanting the holy name of the Lord. Of course, there's no underestimation of how important this is. I'm reading. The importance of chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, is very strongly stressed in the second canto, first chapter, verse 11 of Srimad Bhagavata, in the following way. Sukadev Goswami tells Maharaj Parikshit, quote, "My dear king, if one is spontaneously attached to the chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, it is to be understood that he has attained the highest perfectional stage," unquote. It is specifically mentioned that the karmis who are aspiring after the fruitive results of their activities, the salvationists who are aspiring to become one with the Supreme Person, and the yogis who are aspiring after mystic perfections, can achieve this results of all perfectional stages simply, the word simply is important, by chanting the Maha Mantra. Sukadev uses the word nirnitam. That means it has already been decided. He was a liberated soul and therefore could not accept anything which is not conclusive. So Sukadev Goswami especially stresses that it has already been concluded that one who has come to the stage of chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra with determination and steadiness must be considered to have already passed the trials of fruitive activities, mental speculation, and mystic yoga. Wonderful. Yes, it has already been decided. There's nothing more than this. Yes. So there's a beautiful verse. Nama Chintamani Krishna Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha Purna Sudo Nitya Mukta Abhinatvam Nama Namina. Beautiful verse. that this holy name of Krishna is transcendently blissful. It bestows all spiritual benedictions because this holy name is Krishna himself, who is the reservoir of all pleasure. And Purna, this name is complete. And it is not different and no less powerful, than Krishna himself. And it will give you all transcendental mellows, Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha. In other words, all relationships with Krishna is in this holy name. And because Krishna's holy name is not to be contaminated by anything that's material, in other words, it has all spiritual qualities. There's no question of this holy name being involved in any way with the material energy of Maya. So therefore, Krishna's name is liberating, and the name itself is liberated and always spiritual, and is not conditioned in any way by the material laws. Why? Because Krishna's name and Krishna's form are non-different. So this Nama Chintamani Krishna, Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha, this Rasa Vigraha of this word Chintamani. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur derived the name of his actual book called Harinam Chintamani, the touchstone of the holy name, of chanting the holy name, from this actual verse. Now the question can arise. The holy name is non-different from Krishna. Right? Now, because the holy name is completely pure and completely pure, Pavitra, Purnam, pure. So, if someone who is not pure and not liberated, how can they approach the holy name? How can one even touch the holy name with one's tongue and actually chant the holy name and hear the holy name? See? So this is given, beautifully by Srila Rupa Goswami in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, and the verse is also quoted by Krishna's Kaviraj in the Chaitanya Charitamrita in the 17th chapter, text 136. And there, Rupa Goswami says, quoted by Krishna's Kaviraj, Ata Shri Krishna Namadi Na Bhavet Grayam Indriya Sevan Mukhi Hi Jivado Swayam Eva Spurachada. That material senses itself may not appreciate Krishna's holy name and form, qualities and pastimes. But however a conditioned soul was not pure yet, can be awakened to Krishna consciousness if one just renders service to the holy name by using one's tongue and one's ear to chant the holy name. And accompanying that, kirtanam and shravanam, chanting and hearing the holy name, one must only accept remnants of the Lord's footsteps. And in that way, the tongue will help to become completely purified. And gradually one will understand that the holy name of Krishna and Krishna are non-different. Now this tongue is the most important in actually practical application of sadhana bhakti or devotional service. And it is the best to approach Krishna, the use of the tongue, which has two functions. The tongue is used to taste and the tongue is used to vibrate. See? Jivada. And this is there, Vacho Vegam, Jiva Vegam, the first verse in the Nectar of Instruction. Vacho Vegam, to speak or vibrate, Jiva Vegam, to taste. See? So approaching Krishna in this particular verse is Sevan Mukhi Hi Jivada. Jiva means the tongue. And you can use your tongue to engage in devotional service. So realization of Krishna and the practice of Krishna consciousness is possible by rendering service which begins with the tongue. So if one repeatedly hears and vibrates the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra as well as only taste Krishna Prasadam, By this simple method, basically, one will become purified and come to realize that Krishna's name and Krishna himself are non-different by Krishna himself revealing himself to the pure chanter of the holy name. So it's not like by our own efforts alone that one can understand Krishna. Our efforts must be there, but Krishna's mercy will also be there in this verse. Swayam eva sporatjada. That Krishna himself will reveal himself by our putting our efforts in hearing and chanting the holy name. So by this submissive process, that I surrender, Prabhupada used to say in one lecture, that I surrender my tongue to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, those words. And just by controlling the tongue, Vacho vegam manasa krodha vegam, jiva vegam udara, stomach, and upasta vegam. In other words, just by controlling the tongue, one can control all the other senses. That means the stomach and also the reproductive organs. It goes in a straight line from the tongue to the stomach and to the reproductive organs. All will be controlled. So therefore, Prabhupada said, if you simply just control your tongue by hearing and chanting and honoring Krishna Prasad, then everything else will automatically become okay. No problem at all. Okay, so now I'm going to read that part of chanting the holy names in relation to chapter 13 of a verse by Srila Rupa Goswami. Okay, so that would bring us to page 111. 111. The next paragraph is a short paragraph. Similarly, there is a statement about hearing and chanting the Maha Mantra. Quote, it is said that saints have been able to hear the vibrating strings of the Veena in the hands of Narada, who is always singing the glories of Lord Krishna. Now this same sound vibration has entered my ears, and I'm always feeling the presence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Gradually, I am becoming bereft of all attachment for material enjoyment. So that is so important that when we chant, we must hear. We must hear. And hearing can improve for us. You can put it back onto the screen. And hearing can improve for us if we chant in the association of those who are seriously chanting their japa. We need that kind of association constantly. And even if you chant your japa on your own and you're serious about hearing, still from that perspective also one needs to chant with other devotees. Because association of devotees is mutually reciprocal and equally important for both. Those who are serious chanters and those who want to associate with serious chanters of the holy name and become purified. Okay? We have under 10 minutes, and if there's any questions, even from previous classes, you can ask now. Because I could complete these chapters, even now, chapter 12 and 13, because there's one final item of, aspects of transcendental and devotional service, which is item number 64. Any questions, or should I move ahead?
Maharaj, I think I can move ahead. Okay, there's one question. Mohana Murli Prabhu.
Mohana Murida, please come onto the screen. I don't want to rush this section. It's a very important section. Yes?
Maharaj, this is Amrita Sakhi here. Question from Amrita Sakhi.
You sure it's from you and not from Mohana Murida? Okay, come more onto the screen. Now you come more onto the screen. This way. Yeah. Now tell me the question.
Maharaj, could you please explain mind and heart?
Lift up. Lift your face up. I can't. Yeah. Could you please explain? What did you say?
Mind and heart. Mind and heart.
Mind and heart.
Just now I was mentioning. Yes, Srimad Bhagavatam goes through the year, it goes to the heart, not to the mind.
Okay, good, wonderful question. All right, fine. Now, the mind, as we know, is part of the subtle body. The mind, intelligence, and false ego. So when the subtle body dictates one's desires, it dictates through the agency of the mind. See? The mind is like the head office for the senses of the gross body. See? Just like you may get in a company, there may be a head office. But the head office will send out a directive. Okay? And all the branches and everyone in the factory must follow this directive. And then they execute the directive. So in a similar way, the mind is like the seat, or you could say the center of all the senses, head office. So whatever it directs or gives or tells the senses to do, they will do. So that means the bodily conception of life. The bodily conception of life. Now, when Krishna says man mana bhava mad bhakto, right? It really means that you should surrender your mind to Krishna. Always think of me. See? When you surrender your mind to Krishna, then Krishna will purify your mind not to dictate to you. See? And as the Chaita Guru in the heart, the Lord, who is like a guru in the heart, not the Paramatma, will dictate to you from your heart of not to listen to the mind, because now the mind is my problem and not your problem. Okay? So that's the difference between the function of the mind and the function of the heart. The function of the heart, when Paramatma transforms its functionality to Chaita Guru, the Lord in the heart, and that's how it becomes from the heart. So what does that mean? On a practical level, from Adoshrada Sadhu Sangha Bhajana Kriya, so from the dissociation of devotees, when one enters into the practical devotional service, Bhajana Kriya, then one becomes initiated. Prior to becoming initiated, one is practicing, and then after initiation, which is Prabhupada as a formality, in previous classes I gave, one continues one devotional service. So when one continues in the formative stages, after the beginning stage, after initiation, which is on the formative stages, your mind may tell you to do something, but really the Chaita Guru in the heart manifests itself as the Shiksha Gurus and the Diksha Guru in front of you. So if you want to follow your heart, which may be influencing by the mind, don't listen to the mind, but listen to your Shiksha Gurus and Diksha Guru, and listen to the scriptures. Hari, Guru, and Vaishnavas, listen to that. So then you know it's coming from the heart. And if you're not listening to them in the formative stages of Krishna consciousness, then your mind is telling you, look, listening to them is not good for you. You listen to me, the mind. However, the mind, Prabhupada says, cannot even function without you being in the body as the soul. If you realize that the mind is dependent on you as the soul to give it its function as the subtle body, then you better prefer to listen to the devotees, Shiksha, Diksha Gurus, service authorities. So that means you are listening to the heart. So when you do that more and more in your formative stages in Krishna consciousness, then you'll come to a point where you do not even have to listen to your Shiksha and Diksha Gurus, because your relationship has become so close and intimate with them that without them telling you what to do, you are doing. and you're pleasing them so much, that means it's coming from the heart. That means you're not dictated by the mind. That's going to agitate the senses to move it to activity in the material sense. That means it's coming from the heart. So therefore, Srila Prabhupada used to say, Srila Prabhupada says, like, a fifth class disciple. He doesn't even bother whether the guru is around or the Shiksha gurus. He comes whenever he feels like. The fourth class disciple know it's important to be listening to one Shiksha gurus and Diksha guru. So he comes, but he doesn't follow. The fifth class, he may not even come to see the Shiksha and Diksha guru. The fourth class, he says, okay, I'll try my best to follow. I'm here, I'm here. I'll try my best to follow in the fourth class. See? The third class disciple, he follows the instructions of the Shiksha guru some of the time, but not most of the time. In other words, I'll follow someone. And he may increase gradually to follow more and more to come to second class. And the second class disciple follows all the instructions, faithfully, diligently, rigidly. See? And pleases Shiksha gurus. That's the second class. The first class disciple, he serves without even being told. He immediately understands the consciousness of Shiksha gurus, Diksha gurus, and senior devotees, and he serves them before he could even be instructed. That you actually know is coming from the heart. The second class disciple who follows all the instructions, he follows because he doesn't want to follow his mind. That's also coming from the heart. And the rest are mixed up to fifth class, mind and heart. The fifth class, only mind, no heart. That's it. So we don't want to categorize devotees in this sense, but I gave this explanation to help us personally. Not that we should say, oh, Maharaj said this, oh, he's fifth class. Maharaj said this, or maybe I'm second class and he's first class. Not like that. We shouldn't apply this as a lesson to others. We should apply it as a lesson for our own hearts to actually come from the heart. So in other words, you will find that when we chant Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, and when we are trying to hear, it is like following the instruction of Srila Prabhupada. Try to simply hear Prabhupada says. Try to simply hear. That's second class. You're trying your best. And first class means you don't know you are hearing. When Prabhupada says, just hear. So first class means there's no effort to hear. You don't know that you are hearing. It's like cutting through melting butter. It's just so smooth and so soft. The heart becomes. Which you're going to discuss actually in Bhava Bhakti when we come to that. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you, Maharaj.
We'll conclude for today and we'll complete the 12th and 13th chapter and go to the 14th chapter tomorrow. We're doing pretty good. Srila Prabhupada ki,
Jai.
Ananda Vaishnava Vranda ki,
Jai.
Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada ki,
Jai.
Bhakti Rasa
Jai.
I go Premanande.
Hari Hari Bo. Thank you so much, Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Maharaj.